Today, we're going to talk about something a lot of us feel, but maybe don't quite have the right words for. We're going to dive into what some psychologists call the gift of a sensitive mind.
You ever leave a party, a really fun one, but you feel like you just ran a mental marathon? You get in the car and bam, your brain starts replaying every single thing you said, and you're wondering, did I sound okay? Was that weird? If any of that sounds familiar, stick around. This is for you.
Yeah, the easy label for that feeling is social anxiety. But what if that's not really it? What if it's not some flaw that needs to be fixed, but actually a sign that your brain is just, operating on a whole other level of complexity?
So let's really dig into that idea. This isn't about being broken. It's about your brain sending out a completely different kind of signal when you're in social situations.
There's actually a psychological term for this, a highly sensitive nervous system. And this isn't some personality quirk you choose, it's a physiological state. It means your brain is literally wired to process everything, especially all those little social cues, with incredible depth and detail.
Here's a way to think about it. While most people in a conversation are just processing the words and the obvious stuff, your brain is doing way more. It's picking up on tiny micro-expressions, little shifts in someone's tone of voice, all the emotions that nobody's even talking about. It's kind of like you're watching the movie in 4K with surround sound, while everyone else is just getting the basic plot.
So, how do you know if this is you? Let's break down 5 key signs that what you've been calling social anxiety might actually be high social sensitivity.
All right, first one up. You feel totally, completely wiped out after being around people. And it doesn't even mean you had a bad time. You could have had a blast. But afterwards, you feel this almost desperate need to just be alone, in silence, to recharge your batteries.
Now, it's super easy to just write this off as, I'm just an introvert. But it's actually more specific than that. Because your brain is working so much harder during those social moments that exhaustion is a biological signal. It's just your body telling you it needs a longer cooldown period.
Okay, now for the second sign, which kind of builds on this idea.
You're often the quiet one in a group, right? But it's not because you have nothing to add, or because you're not paying attention. In fact, it's the total opposite. You are taking everything in. People might call you shy, but what's really happening is active observation. You're noticing all the subtle stuff, the group dynamics, that little pause someone takes before they answer, the way a person's smile doesn't quite reach their eyes. You're processing the entire emotional and logical landscape of the conversation before you decide to jump in.
The third sign. This is one that can feel pretty isolating sometimes.
For you, talking about the weather or pointless office gossip, it doesn't just bore you, it can feel almost physically painful. And that's because a mind that is wired for deep, complex thoughts finds those surface-level conversations deeply unsatisfying. It's like you're craving a complex novel, but someone keeps trying to make you read a picture book.
So you might get slapped with the antisocial label, but what you really have is a preference for quality over ritual. You're not trying to reject people, you're just rejecting connections that don't feel real. You're wired to crave depth, meaning, and just authentic interaction.
And number 4, this one is a powerful skill, even if it feels painful at times.
You are just hyper-aware of the social atmosphere around you. You can feel when the distance is growing between two friends or when the entire mood of a room has shifted, often way before anyone else has a clue. Psychologists have a name for this too. It's called rejection sensitivity, and it's so much more than just anxiety. It's actually a highly evolved survival mechanism. Your brain basically goes on high alert. It becomes emotionally vigilant to make sure you're never caught off guard by a social rejection. It's a pretty powerful protective instinct when you think about it.
And finally, our 5th sign. This one has everything to do with where you get your sense of self-worth.
You don't need to be the life of the party to feel like you matter. In fact, those forced social events, like big birthday bashes or huge holiday gatherings, can feel more like a performance than a genuine experience. Your sense of worth comes from your own internal compass, not from getting a round of applause from the crowd.
So if you've been sitting here nodding along to these signs, it is time for a major reframe. Stop thinking of this as some kind of personal flaw. Let's start seeing it not as a burden, but as your own unique perceptual superpower. Here's the big takeaway. You are not socially awkward. You aren't too sensitive or too much. You are simply wired for depth, living in a world that, let's be honest, often prefers to splash around in the shallow end. And that wiring, it comes with some incredible gifts.
It lets you see the world with so much more clarity and nuance. It gives you this capacity for truly deep empathy. It drives you to seek out connections that are real and meaningful. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It's an absolute gift.
So, I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. What would change for you if you started treating your sensitivity not as something you need to fix, but as your single greatest strength?